So specifically in this chapter, we will try and understand the tourism, transport, and communication. Let's start on the basis of, if you see the things, which are the things makes the particular place, particular country attract the tourist place. Like what are the things? Like we will look in Brazil and India, right? So if you like, you want to try this. Like here it is giving that, like in Brazil, which country do you which place you like to visit in Brazil and why, and what are the places make the Brazil better. So here if I talk about the geographical explanation in Brazil. So in Brazil, the white sand, sea coast, beautiful islands, clean area, dense Amazon forest, various birds and animals attracts the lot of international tourists here. The lot of international tourists here because of this thing, the islands, orchards, deep intense dense forest of Amazon, and many more. The new capital city of Brasilia is also a tourist attraction. There is a new capital city called Brasilia. It is also a tourist attraction. Cities like cities like Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo are large cities which attracts a lot of tourists. There are two cities. The one is Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo, which attracts a lots of tourists over here. Tourism is an important economic activity in several regions in the country. Like if I talk about tourist is an important economic activity in several regions in the country. Looking at the sensitivity of the natural resources, if I talk about if we look at the sensitivity of the natural resources in Brazil, ecotourism is developing at a faster rate in Brazil. If I talk about the natural resources in Brazil, so ecotourism are very important. Okay, ecotourism are growing faster rate in Brazil, right? Ecotourism are growing faster rate in Brazil. So if you look about this tourism and economy in 2016, so what type of graph is shown here? Histogram, you can say. What does the graph shows? The graph shows the how much people are engaged in tourism and how much contribution are there in GDP, right? So now you understand, like the Brazil economy is mostly depend on the ecotourism, and the Brazil to international tourists are attracted towards Brazil because of the two cities, the Rio de Janeiro and the second one is Sao Paulo. So because of this place, like tourists are attracted, and according to the islands, big islands, according to the clean white sand beaches, the white sand beach and orchards and deep dense forest, because of that, right? So here it is giving that according to the this one, what does the graph show, and which country tourism has a larger share in contribution to GDP. Like if I talk about the contribution, the Brazil have a larger here in contribution. India is very less. Which country is a larger population engaged in tourism sector but lesser in GDP? Like India. Indian population is engaged in tourism but lesser in GDP, right? So as shown in the figure 9.1, the number of international tourists begin the 9.1, the number of international tourists visiting India in 2015 is more than that of Brazil. When you see the figure 9.1, okay, the number of international tourists visiting India in 2015 is more than that of Brazil. Even though this is true, the share of tourism sector in the GDP is less than that of Brazil. Like the number of tourists are coming in India in 2015 is more than the Brazil, but the fact is that like contribution of the GDP, the Brazil is more. Indian contribution is very less, right? And apart from this, the proportion of Indian population engaged in tourism proportion. Apart from this, the proportion of Indian population engaged in tourism proportion is higher than Brazil. If I talk about the proportion, Indian people are more engaged in tourism sector than that of Brazil, and this is primarily dependent upon the size of population of those countries and the size of GDP. And you know why the Indian people are more engaged in the tourism sector? Because obviously the population are more in India, so that's why they are engaged more of those countries the size of the GDP. According, if you see the figure 9.2, according to this, the population of India is more than Brazil. So it's so is it GDP? As the GDP of India is higher than Brazil, so also its population. Therefore, the contribution tourism to GDP. Therefore, the contribution of tourism to GDP appears lesser than Brazil, and population engagement seems higher. So, like you know, if I talk about the gross domestic product of India, is always higher than Brazil, and so also its population. Okay, so Indians population, so also its population. Therefore, the contribution of tourism to GDP, the contribution of tourism, if I talk about GDP, appear lesser than Brazil, and population engagement is more. Right? Why it is lesser? The contribution of GDP of India. Why it is lesser? Because the population is higher and the people are engaged more over there. Right? The tourism people are engaged more over there because you know the tourism people are working there more. So like people engagement of that particular area are more. Right? So tourists are very less. That's why it is less. Now in India, it's same figure. Like I'm going to start tomorrow now.